Welcome to Illini Insights, a podcast dedicated to learning more about the employees who make up the diverse and talented community at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. In this episode, we sit down with Christopher Evans, Forestry Extension and Research Specialist at the University of Illinois Extension. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Keith. How you doing?
Good. So tell me a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got your start in forestry.
Okay. Actually, I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains and grew up outside my whole life as a kid, and always knew I wanted to do something outdoors. Started with wildlife actually in college, and I took a dendrology class, and dendrology is the study of trees, and fell in love with trees at that point. And so the rest is history, I guess. I just decided to make that my career.
So speaking of trees, do you have a favorite tree now?
It's so hard.
Yeah.
We have 180 trees that are native to Illinois, so it's hard to choose.
Yeah.
I would say, a good safe choice would be the white oak, right? It's just it's a wonderful tree found all across the state, and just a beauty.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what inspired you to pursue a career in forestry?
Well, again, my love of trees and things from this dendrology class, but really with extension, it was a major professor, somebody in grad school. I gave a talk for them, and they said, you'd be a good extension person. You should look into that. I didn't even really know what extension was until that point, and it really basically changed my life and changed the direction of my career.
Wow, just off one conversation.
Yeah, it was. It was just that positive feedback saying that, you're good at this and you ought to look into it, right?
Yep. And honestly, that's how a lot of people find their start in their careers. Just literally one interaction will lead to this whole event,
Oh yeah. It's amazing to understand the I guess the power, the influence of really good mentors in a career.
Yep. Yeah. So what is your role as the Forestry Extension and Research Specialist entail?
So I, both research and extension wise, kind of for me is aimed at answering questions that Illinois landowners have. So people want to know how best to manage their forest, how to keep it healthy, how to keep it productive. And so I try to develop programs, educational programs that center on answering some of those questions. I try to work directly with landowners, either meeting them on their land or answering questions online or things like that, really aimed at helping them the best I can to give them the information that they need. And then research-wise, I try to tailor the research I do to answer those questions that I get a lot. Yeah. Right? So if there's something we don't know about, we'll set up a research project to try to get more information so that we can have better answers in the future.
Yeah. So are you kind of like traveling around the state, or are you kind of in one spot?
So I'm based at the Dixon Springs Agricultural Center. So that is in far southern Illinois, right on the Ohio River. And kind of that's strategic because there's a lot of forest in that area. But I do have statewide responsibilities. And so I cover, the entire state. I do a lot of traveling for programs, all the time.
Yeah. So I talked to Candace Anderson, I think it was 2 weeks ago, and she mentioned that Zoom has helped her she does a lot of training all over the state, and Zoom has really helped her kind of expand to reach, the whole state without actually having, do you use Zoom a lot, or
all the time? Yeah. So over the last 3 years,
Yeah.
I think we've all had to, anybody in extension has had to become an expert in Zoom. And it's really helpful in a lot of ways. Like you said, you can reach the audiences wherever they're at. You can reach them across the whole state without having to travel. However, I'll add a however, they're in natural resources, forestry education, there's some need for, in the field work and doing hands-on things. So you still have to have that travel and still have to meet people in the forest. I think that's really important, and you can't lose that, just
that
Zoom.
disconnect.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. How do you work with other UIUC employees across the state in your role as a forestry extension and research specialist?
So as a specialist, so I get a lot of the questions from other folks in extension. So that maybe somebody in a unit or an area has a question that they may not know the answer, they want to check on things. they will, run it by me if it's one of my expertises. And so I will work a lot like that. Also with programs going on across the state, if they need a speaker or content, I'll, go and do a program for them. But then there's a lot of other just collaborations, right? So I work with people within the Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Sciences, other folks within the College of ACES, on research projects that span broader than just forestry as well. I'm on committees and things for grad students. So we work a lot like that. But really, I guess the biggest part of it is either collaborative research or, these kind of extension programs.
Yeah, yeah. How has the field of forestry or agriculture evolved during your career? And how has the University of Illinois Extension adapted to these changes?
Oh, that's a great question. So I've been at this for about 20 years. And so one of the things that I've seen in forestry has been a real shift to understanding the importance of native ecosystems, native species, and the importance of pollinators and all these different diverse parts of these ecosystems. And, 20 years ago, we didn't talk a lot about invasive species, exotic species, or some of these weed problems. It was just species, right? And so the kind of understanding that our forests are full ecosystems that are put together and have all these different components that are important ecologically is something that's really evolved a lot more in the last couple decades. And then it's neat to see Extension here at the university really embrace that. You see a lot more programming on the need for pollinators, the importance of native species, the importance of healthy ecosystems as a major content of our programming outside of just how to grow more board feet for timber, right?
Yeah. I definitely, I love everything about the forest, and I grew up, going out in the forest. And one thing that I feel like I learned is everything's very fragile, It only takes one small variable to throw out, is that correct? A whole ecosystem.
Oh, absolutely. If something goes awry, if there's a linchpin species that you lose or something like that, it could certainly create this, we call it a trophic cascade, right? There's large consequences for it. And so, yeah, you're right. They are resilient. I would say they're resilient in some ways because they've taken decades and decades of abuse and are still thriving. But at the same time, there is this fragility to them as well.
Yeah. What advice would you give to someone who is interested in pursuing a career in forestry?
I would say go for it, for one thing. I think it's a great career. I think the more kind of field experiences you can get, the more knowledge you can get about not just the trees and not just the silviculture kind of side of it, but the other plants, the animals, and kind of become more of a well-rounded forester that knows a lot of the different aspects. That's a great way to kind of set yourself up for a wonderful career. There's great schools. I've got to pitch the Department of Natural Resources and Environmental Sciences here at the university and others. Not exclusive. But, most of the forest nowadays in Illinois and really across the whole United States, the private forests, they're managed not for timber. That's not the primary objective anymore for landowners. There have been several surveys out there and studies showing that by far and away, people want the forest for wildlife. They want it for recreation. And so as a forester, you need to have the kind of skills and experiences to be able to address the landowner's needs best, right? And so that's thinking beyond board, thinking this kind of more holistic idea of forest management really is what I would advise anybody interested in forestry to kind of look at.
Yeah, that is great advice. That is really good advice. How do you see the University of Illinois Extension contributing to the future of forestry, research, and management? And what initiatives are you most excited about right now?
Yeah, I see us hopefully as as having influence in the state. I think our work with private landowners kind of helps guide some decisions over time. Our research certainly, I think, helps answer questions. But I think we also work really closely with these partners, right? We work with the Department of Natural Resources. There's a lot of consulting foresters, private foresters, and we try to we try to do professional development with them. And so part of our job is to stay updated on the current research, the current trends, these answers, these questions and things, and relay those to the professionals that are in the field as well, so that they aren't using old data. They're not using what they learned 20 years ago in their college career only. They can kind of stay updated and stay knowledgeable about the evolution of forestry over time. And that's one really important role I think that Extension can play, is providing that opportunity for other professionals to stay updated. In terms of what I'm most excited about, we have an initiative over the last couple years that we've started called a Beginning Forest Landowner Program. And so this is really a deeper dive into fewer people. So a lot of our programs are kind of open to anybody. We have a lot of them, and it's a kind of a one-off program, right? You do a little program that day, and then you're done. This Beginning Forest Landowner, it's actually a year-long course. And so we limit it to like 20 people, 25 people, and it's a 1 weekend a month. And we kind of invest a lot of time in these folks that are passionate about forestry, but new, right? They don't know where to start necessarily. They may have not really engaged in forest management in the past, or maybe they just bought their land and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so we kind of go through all these steps and work with them both in the field with, getting our hands dirty, doing stuff, as well as learning from experts in a classroom and a lot of other ways, really to try to give them this kind of leg up and give them this experience, the knowledge, the skills, the connections, so that they can really be active forest managers at a higher level than just attending one meeting. And I'm really excited about this. We finished our first year. We're into our second cohort right now, just started. And I really think it's going to be very, very impactful in the long run.
Yeah, it sounds like you have people, new beginners who are just learning about forestry, all the way up to people who've been doing it for 20 years. You're still continuing that education.
Absolutely.
Because it's constantly evolving. One question I did have to follow that up is these landowners or these new landowners, is there a specific land size requirement, or is this just kind of open, for people who are interested?
So we try to be open, right, in the sense that if anybody has even a little bit of forest, we welcome them. We do have a limit, right? So in terms of we don't want this the class size to be so large that it kind of waters down our ability to work one-on-one with the students. So we have to make some decisions. And so this class is focused on the southern 16 counties. And then if we have a lot of applicants, and we have had a lot of applicants, we kind of choose folks that have 5 or 10 acres or more, just for that impact. And that's really driven by the grant we got and just priorities we have to make.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we're going to move on to our rapid fire round.
Oh, okay.
This is a series of either or questions, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
So the first question is early bird or night owl?
Oh, can I say both? I really love getting up early at daylight, but then I just stay up a while. So I don't know. I can't answer one or the other.
I'm the same way, so we'll keep that.
Okay, all right, good.
That works. Okay, camp on the beach or in the mountains?
Oh, in the mountains, of course. There's no trees on the beach.
Yeah, that's very true. Okay, solo research or team collaboration?
Oh, I like collaboration. There's so much expertise out there, and just working with people is so awesome.
Yeah. Hiking or camping?
Oh, that's those things aren't mutually exclusive.
No, that's very true.
Yep.
You can do both of those things.
I do love to camp, though. It's wonderful camping. Yeah.
Yeah. Coffee or tea?
Tea. I'm not a coffee guy.
Oh.
Especially Earl Grey, for whatever reason. That's my tea of choice.
Nice. I have not heard of that, but
it's kind of a British thing, but it's good. You should try it.
Definitely. Sweet or salty food?
I got a sweet tooth, I got to say.
Yeah. GPS or compass?
I want to say compass because I think it's a lot cooler, but I got to admit that I've moved over to GPS nowadays.
Yeah. Nice.
But I can still handle a compass, don't get me wrong.
Summer or winter field work?
Winter by a long shot. I always go by, it's easier to put more clothes on. It gets so hot, it's harder to cool off. And so for me, working in the winter, even working really hard in the winter, outside is fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. Layer up and you'll be fine.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yep. Tent or cabin?
Tent, definitely. Yep. I want
Nice.
to experience the outdoors.
Exactly. Exactly. You don't get that in a cabin.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
Research or teaching?
Oh, that's a tough one to answer too. There's something special about teaching. Working with folks that are interested in and wanting to learn is a wonderful experience. So I would say teaching, but you gotta have the research in there to answer those questions and be a good teacher.
Yeah. Paper or digital notes?
I still carry an old Ride in the Rain field notebook with me.
Yep.
I like that.
It's classic. Nice.
Yep.
Nice. Okay. Fiction or nonfiction?
A little bit of both. I like nonfiction nowadays.
Yep.
I'm actually reading Nick Offerman's new book called Where the Deer and the Antelope Play. It has a lot of forestry in it. I'd highly recommend it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. I'd definitely check that out. Yeah.
It's a great book.
I like reading. So, all right, we're gonna segment back to our normal questions.
Okay.
We're gonna start that off with, what are some common misconceptions people have about forestry or the work you do, and how do you address those misconceptions?
So I think a big misconception about forestry is it's all about cutting trees down, right? It's about lumber, it's about timber, and that's really all that foresters do, right? And I think that a lot of people think that, and they think that the other stuff are biologists, but foresters just cut trees down. And, we try to combat that or address that misconception through our programming, through our work, through our social media, where we do a lot about native plants, native animals, and really kind of highlight these other aspects of forestry too.
Yeah, if people are listening, what is your social media that people can check out?
So I would recommend going in Instagram. We have at Illinois Trees. And so we really, that page is set up to really celebrate the native trees of Illinois. So you'll see a lot of ecology in there, a lot of cool pictures, and then just neat factoids about trees. So that's the place. We also have Illinois Extension Forestry on Facebook as well.
Got it. Thank you. Can you tell us about a specific research project you've worked on that had a significant impact in the field of forestry?
Yeah, certainly can. So this is one that we recently finished up a couple years ago, and it deals with invasive plants. And so if you don't know invasive plants, they're exotic species that kind of cause problems in our forests. They grow to higher levels. They're not really naturally found in our forests, and so controlling them is something that is a way of keeping our forest healthy and diverse. And so there's this one plant called garlic mustard, which is a big problem for our spring wildflowers because it grows in the same area. And we've had these kind of assumptions about how to control them and when you have to stop using certain types of control, maybe herbicides, and when you have to switch. And so we had these kind of hard breaks where you could manage like this up to a certain point, but as soon as it starts producing seed, you have to stop and you have to do something different, which is more expensive and it takes longer. So we wanted to really test that and see, is that the case? How can we really tailor this down to understand really what are the impacts? And so we set up a study where we tried different herbicide sprays at different times, and we looked at it much later than when the conventional recommendations were that you had to stop spraying.
Yeah.
And we found it was successful. Even though the plants produce seeds, these methods killed the seeds, right? And so what it allowed us to do was really drastically change the window of when you can do management for this species and when you can't. And I think that really had a big impact for managers understanding kind of planning and being able to have the capacity to deal with this invasive plant. I think so. I was really happy with that research and happy that it's had the influence that it's had so far.
That is really amazing. That's awesome. Can you share any exciting upcoming projects or initiatives that you are currently working on, and how do you think they will contribute to the advancement of the field of forestry?
Sure. So we are I'm in a pretty exciting research project right now, working with kind of interdisciplinary with groups kind of across, the college here or the university, including the history survey and entomology and extension. And we are looking at forest health and invasive species in forest and how that influences ticks and tick-borne diseases. And so what we're trying to look at is, does an invasion of a forest, an unhealthy forest, does that lead to a higher risk both to humans and as well as, animals, cattle and things at risk to tick-borne diseases? And then how can we manage the forest to reduce these risks? Super exciting, I think. So really, really interesting in terms of looking at these kind of interactions at an ecological interactions in a forest, and how that has implications on human health risk, on forest integrity, on health and things like that. We're still collecting data or analyzing data. We've done a 2-year study. It looks like just preliminarily that these invasive species increase the humidity at the ground level, increase tick numbers, and so we may see higher kind of risk of tick-borne diseases in invaded forest. Again, we're still looking through the data, but it's really interesting to look at stuff at kind of at this interdisciplinary level, and look at things that you may not think of just kind of in your own silo of your research.
Yeah. So are you going out and collecting like ticks?
We are.
Is that an active project?
Yep. Oh. Well, for the last 2 years. So our data collection is done. Right now we're in the analysis stage. Yeah. But yeah, so I will admit a lot of intern time. So my interns may be cursing me for it. But every 3 weeks we dress in big white suits and we have these sheets, our white sheets, and we drag them in transects through different forests.
Yeah.
Some are invaded with different species, some are uninvaded, and then we take little tweezers and pick the ticks off, and then they get sent to other experts that we're working with to grind them up and do DNA analysis for diseases, and really, really interesting stuff.
That is great. That is really cool. Yep. Thank you for joining us on Illini Insight. My name is Keith Miller.
And I'm Chris Evans.
And I will see you on the next Illini Insight.